Hello, in this video I'll show you how to add specific custom names for your XML fields in C# instead of just class names. Now, a few days ago I made a video about XML, how to generate an XML file in C# and how to read one, so do take a look at that if you want to get started with those basics. This is going to be more about what you can add to the class to make this whole thing happen, but basically if you just go a sort of basic route, you will end up with a result like this. Okay, so I have a test model class, right? Therefore, the whole thing is wrapped in test model. And then I have a string called A1. I have a string called A2. And as you can see, the names match the names of the class or the class properties. The same thing with the list called A3. In this case, I have A3, and then the list items are string and string and string, which isn't necessarily a great thing, right? What you would prefer to have, most likely, something like this, right? We have A1, so maybe it would be something different, but probably the most important part here is the list, right? We have a free list, but then we also have item, and we have item, and we have item. So I do believe this is more of an important piece of that, and let's take a look at how you can do that and how you can customize it. So this is the whole code, and again, there's another video for that, how to serialize and deserialize these XML files. But basically we have this test model class, and you have to add some attributes in order to make this happen. To change the name for the class, okay, to switch from the class model to your custom name, you need to use an attribute called XML root. XML root, okay, so you will need to reference the system.xml serialization if you're using a separate file for this class. You will need to do that, right? And then you'll get the XML root. Now, don't get confused by anything. The thing you set in XML root attribute is the element name. Okay, it's the element name. This is what you set, and you shouldn't have spaces. Spaces don't really work, right? You don't need spaces. But you have the XML root, and that will replace the word test model as you have seen in the example. Now, for the sort of general properties, you simply use xElement, right? And then you have element name, so you choose whatever element name you want, and you don't have to set them all. Some of them you can leave default, some of them you can change. It's all up to you, and it will read quite perfectly, right? It will read quite perfectly as long as you leave those attributes, right? So you can't just write it with these attributes and then use another class model without the attributes to read the file. It will not work that way because it has already changed. It needs to read it. A similar thing goes with JSON. If you've ever worked with JSON serializers, it's kind of the same arrangement. You can set specific names. In JSON you would have spaces perhaps, so that's obviously quite useful. But this is how it all comes together, and as you can see, this changes from A to 2. Now, another different thing is the array. Okay, array is not an element for whatever reason, but it is an array nonetheless, and we have XML array item. XML array item will rename each item in the array. It will rename the items, no matter what it does, but it will not rename the actual list or an array. If you would have an array, this will apply to array, but it also applies to the list, so it's all perfectly fine to use it like this. And we have, as you can see, XML array item for the item, and then XML array for the actual array name, right? For this particular property, it goes from A3 to this A3 list, okay? It's not XML element, it's an array, so do be careful and do be mindful of that. Now, you can find all of my Patreon, on Patreon rather, all the code for my YouTube videos, and also do take a look at my courses. With the Patreon you get some great deals. You get free courses, free courses. If your subscription isn't all that much, the course is usually 10, 15 euros, dollars each, and for just about $10 you'll get free free courses. So do take a look at those deals. Do take a look at my other YouTube videos. A lot of great samples and examples. My Blazor example course is now free on YouTube. Do take a look at that. And with all that said, we will conclude this video.